our number one supporter. She's the super fan.
Seriously, honestly, like yeah, no, I even saw her comment on our YouTube channel. Like, really appreciate it.
Put this on since we're
Because like
recording.
we don't disturb everybody's time, so the moment that someone's like spending a little time leaving the comments, like we're always like super thankful.
No, you know what though? It's funny. Like we're we're doing all these lives and stuff like that, and the smart people, and I'm gonna call them smart early adopters. We'll call them early adopters. They're gonna get the most juice out of some of this stuff, right? Like, as these communities grow and things start to get busier and busier and busier, then it's harder to give this kind of time, this kind of like open conversation where like Barb can really ask us something specific to her need. When you start creating a grander audience, like it's tough to help 3,000 people all at the same time, or 2,000 people, or 1,000 people. Even 100 people is tough, right? But when we're in
Yeah.
these smaller kind of little pockets where we have like 10, 15 people, it's super helpful for those 10 to 15 people when they're here, because they're getting all the good juice out of us right away.
Yeah, no, seriously, not even like 100 people, like 30 people in a group call. Like you can't really ask them that many questions anymore,
Yeah. No,
right? So,
that's
and usually the best conversation comes from behind the scene, like the one-on-one discussion, right? Or one like literally a small group discussion. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's well, that's what's kind of good about networking, right? Like the networking is the best part. Like you go and these people will talk at events and they will speak. Let's put that up like that. They'll speak at
yeah,
events, and then you're listening to them, but all the good juice happens after the speaker. It's when
yeah,
you and I can go and like hang out in a corner, grab a couple drinks, and really talk about like talk out these issues, right? This is what I like about this
yeah,
setting. We're talking out our issues, and it allows other people to like listen into issues, right? Like that are happening. And you get to be, you always want to be a fly on the wall, and sometimes you're like, man, I wish I could be a fly on the wall when these two people are talking. And I think the more and more we're doing this, like you and I talking is fun, because we're talking, we do similar things, but we do them completely different, and we operate in different spaces, but it's very intersected. So for us to
yeah,
be a fly in the wall and get to hear two Reno nerds, and I know Andrew does a lot more of the Reno like stuff, but for us to like collaborate and chat, it's incredible. Arrow's here too when he's on, and him and I talk on Tuesdays. You get to like listen to stuff that you would have not normally listened, or if it's in like in a PowerPoint presentation, you're trying to hit all your points, and you try not to get sidetracked, because also when you're presenting, you're on a time crunch, right?
hmm,
This I like this environment. It's more casual. We can just chat about different things, different topics, help everybody out in the community. The next
yeah,
big like day that I want to do is I want to get like me, you, Arrow, maybe like a couple mortgage brokers, and some like maybe a property manager or two. I mean, you guys can cover the property manager, and just put a newbie investor in the limelight and be like, okay, you have your dream team, right? Like, what do you want to know? What do you want to know, right? Like, you could pick anybody's brain or ask a question and get answers from all of us. And I think it would be super helpful versus people just listening in on us. It'd be nice to help, like, even like one of your newer students, like, throw them in here, right? They just went through your crash course. Okay, like, what are the questions now? If you could ask anybody who's got a lot of experience anything you wanted, what is it, right? Like, whose brain do you want to
yeah,
pick? And that I think
yeah, for
is
sure.
would be a cool format to kind of do some of these things in.
Awesome, awesome. No, panel speakers. I think I like that idea.
Right, but I like panel speaking, but I hate when it's like just panel speaking, and then there's like not really, like they get asked a random question and everybody gets answered stuff. But like when it's a newbie and we're like, okay, hey, I'm having this problem, I'm trying to get overcome this problem, or like I ran my numbers and I'm losing money here or there, or whatever, and then we can just like really specifically fix somebody who's new into it, or even middle range. Like it depends on where they are in their investing career. And then like usually people who are like that also all similarly will have the same problem, right? Like
Yeah,
depending on where
yeah,
you are in business, you're going to have similar problems, whether it's scaling, growth, first getting into a business, you know real estate investing or not. Like you're going to have layers of problems. It's just how do you solve them?
yeah, for sure, for sure. So, do we have a specific topic that we want to kind of go over, or we'll keep it casual. I'll ask you some questions. You can ask me some questions.
Yeah, I
Because
think.
like you and I, we can talk about the business side of a lot, right? Like the management style, right? The
Yeah,
scaling point. What do you do vertical integration and all that stuff, right? Or do you want to talk about more like a specific things in real estate?
I don't know.
I'm
I
good
think
either
I
way.
think I think I don't know. I guess really it's up to the people, but I think we can just talk casually. Sure, business. I love talking business. I mean, there's not a day that I don't love to talk business. One of the things I was doing, I was reviewing a business that I was looking to acquire, like a gym business, and
Nice.
but I don't think I'm going to acquire it. We'll see. We'll see. I'm running through the numbers and stuff like that. Man, that's a tough business. Speaking of businesses,
Yeah, gym business is like a very it's a volume game, right? It's a very low margin, right? You're paying like I don't
yeah,
know, like 10, 15 bucks, 20 bucks, 30 bucks, right? And you need to be packing the whole gym and hoping that people don't show up all at once,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So
It's a tough model, and there's so many of them. That's like what I don't like about that model now is that there's so many gyms. They're like Tim
mm,
Hortons now. There's one gym in every fucking goddamn corner of the street. You can't like miss another thing. Would you invest
yeah.
200K into a property or 200K into a good business idea? That's a good question. Okay, that's a good topic.
Okay, maybe we'll start. By the way, I'll quickly answer Barb's question, right? So the
Oh, sorry.
corporation, I always go for corporation because some people try to put it under personal name because they're trying to capitalize on the being the primary residence. They can avoid the capital gain tax and all that stuff. But right now, there's the anti-flipping rule where all of the income from the flips under personal name is going to be added into income tax. And usually, if we have a full-time job, right, it's going to put us our
Over. Yeah.
income bracket up to almost like the highest couple tiers. So the anti-flipping rule is really going against anybody who's a kind of like a contractor who's like doing house hacking and then and move one property to another one. But it doesn't really affect someone like us where we put things into corporation because it's going to be an active income for us anyway, where we pay it's either 12%, 12.6% or
Yeah.
something. If it's over 500,000, then we pay like 26%. So usually we just do throw it into a corporation. And there's one thing that we need to pay attention is that if we perform a very extensive renovation on the flips, there's going to be it can be categorized as a new build, which means when we sell, now the government wants to charge it, the CRA wants to charge additional HST on top of the sales price. So we always try to make sure that whatever we do, if it's very extensive, we try to keep it under 90% of the full renovation. We always make sure that we leave a bit of section, take tons of picture. If there's any questions being asked, we can at least go back with our documentation to prove that it wasn't over 90% of a renovation that was done for the property.
So what? Wait. What qualifies that? Like, at what point does it become a development versus a renovation? I don't do
So
flips.
development
That's
is like yeah, 90% of 90% of a renovation that includes like bringing in like we're talking about drywalls and all that stuff, right? So if you take everything down, all of a sudden that's like now like if you literally I'm talking about taking the studs like all the way down to the studs, right? You're rerouting the electric work, the plumbing and all that stuff. If someone comes in here, take a picture, for example, city inspector, right? Like as you're going through the phases, they started taking a picture, and you have those on file. You can't really say that you didn't actually do over 90% renovation. So usually what we do is that we don't, sometimes we do take it down to maybe certain portion we do take it down to studs. But if we don't need to remove the wall, we make sure that we take a picture of that so that when we are filing for taxes, we can also send those files to our accountant, and then our accountant will back everything up and write a confirmation letter to our lawyer to confirm that the HSC uh, shouldn't be on top of the purchase price
I see.
or shouldn't be included. Yeah.
So what about when you're buying them? Because I see a lot, and I don't really understand. I mean, maybe you can shed some light on these houses that people buy. They'll buy a house, and they'll gut it down to the studs, and then they'll try to sell it.
Yeah. So as long as there's no renovation, there wouldn't be any issue. I think the problem is that when you do a full renovation, now you're really adding the value on top of that. All of a sudden, that's a new product, and the government wants to get their hands in. Hey, it's a new product. Now we need to actually, well, like my
Yeah,
piece of the HST needs to be paid.
so would you be so buying those types of properties would put you at risk? Or
Yeah,
no, right? Because you're buying it
100%.
already gutted.
Yeah,
Right, and I don't
yeah,
understand
exactly.
those products. Like the financing is also problematic on those projects, right? Like you're buying them like gutted. You know, I know mortgage people and lenders. They don't love carcasses, right? They would rather see a rundown home than a carcass.
No, so yeah, no, exactly. But that's also why you can really haggle enough down, right? But usually by the time you need to take out everything, hopefully the existing structure is big enough for you to convert into many different
Yeah,
units,
yeah,
right? If it's for like rebuilt, right? Like that, then you it's better to be on an oversized lot so that you can tear everything down and then build this something a little bit more massive. Yeah, me and Luke were talking about this part. Like Luke was also like we never actually went into the problem where we're being forced to pay HST. Because imagine if we sell a project and down the road now we have to like pay back that HST. That would be crazy. That all the margins pretty much gone,
yeah.
right? So, but yeah, no, we haven't had a situation where we're being forced to do that, and that's why documentation through all the projects is really important.
Yeah, that you know what? Like I had to not pay HST but WSIB. We did a massive renovation, 44 townhouses, all at once,
Mm,
and it was right when WSIB was going from not being mandatory to mandatory, and then years later, they knocked on my door and they were like, "Where's my money?"
oh my God, that's
And I was
crazy.
like, "What?" And then yeah, they're like, "Oh, WSIB was effective mandatory that year." And I had to go chase down every single contractor. Like this, we're talking about 2 years down the road to get their copy of their WSIB or that they actually submitted the WSIB. And it started out at like $100,000 bill that I had to pay.
Wow,
And then
that's a lot.
it was, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna close down this company. It was a lot. It was significant. And then yeah, so I had to like chase everybody down, find their paperwork, or get them to file their paperwork if they didn't file, and then we dropped that number to a much more reasonable number because only the smaller, little mom pop guys, they ended up not paying at all and would not. Or some of these guys, you couldn't even you called their number and they were gone, right? Like they didn't exist anymore.
Right, right.
And that was probably my most catastrophic like oh shit moment.
Yeah. WSIB, we also need to pay for that for our management company, like for our staff. Yeah, it's I always forget to because they only take that one time payment, right? I always miss the deadline and then they chase us and then I'm like, shit, forgot about this
Yeah,
again.
yeah, we file a recorder. We have to file a recorder. We're doing it so much. We do so much, like
Oh,
especially in the renovations, right? Um,
yeah.
even I had to separate it because what they would do is if you're in because construction is one of the higher WSIB payments that you're required to make. So
Mm-hmm.
I split up my companies because even though I had administrative staff in my reno company, they would still have to pay the reno company WSIB percentage
Wow. Okay.
because they associate it with to the business. They tie it to the business.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh man, like I don't know why they're making so expensive to operate a business here,
I don't know.
right? It just doesn't make any sense because at the end of the day, all these costs will be put towards the end consumer, right? So imagine if all these payments start getting piled up, like even like permitting, the fee for all the permits and stuff, right? The development costs, development charges, right? Like I saw that. I remember like 2019 to 2020, there was a huge jump, right? It's like, man, you guys are trying to make this even more challenging for the builders to build, and whatever you throw in there, the public won't know how much it is, right? But you're essentially pushing that purchase price to a different level because now there's all the costs that needs to be covered by the builder.
Yeah, and then they're like, we need more houses.
Yeah, it's not. So
it is a hot mess, man.
yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Do you want to answer that question? I got my answer for that. Invest 200K into a property or 200K into the business idea.
Honestly, I would say, for me, I would say 200K into a good business. Especially nowadays, if you can solve a massive problem, I think there's a lot of opportunity in business to really exponentially grow that 200K. Right? Versus in a property, properties are safe, they're steady, and they're good. I would not invest it. Like if I didn't have a business sense, I would not invest because I wouldn't know where to start, or I would have never, if I never had any business background, to be able to look at a business and be able to say like this gym that I looked at it on paper, it's a great idea, but then once I start looking into the numbers and everything, like what do they own, what do they not own, like how can I make this work, it just doesn't make sense for me to tie up all this capital to like dig them out of a grave, right? Like I would rather pivot to another business idea. Like I guess it depends on what your business is that you're gonna do. But there's some guys, like there's one guy that I follow on Instagram and he follows me on YouTube actually, Zach Hartley. He literally monetized 3D printing. He created he found like these like problems, even some stuff like tile spacers, and he has like 10 or 15 I think 3D printers in his garage, and he prints products for his Amazon like online store, and he does a lot of social media. He's got lots of followers on TikTok and stuff like that. But he basically does some TikToks, makes it go viral, and then people just start buying this stuff that he hits print, and all the printers will print them. And it doesn't cost much for a 3D printer.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, I'll provide you with my answer actually. 200K. Here's what I would do. I'm heavily investing in one company. It's actually my buddy's company. They're building the electric boat, and the goal is to obviously go public because they're one of the few companies that's doing that in mass production. Okay, and they got the sales order that they had is like crazy. And then before they even had this idea, because I've known them like since university, so 2010, right? So I've known this family for a long time. I've seen how they build a very scalable business from literally like 2010 when we first met, all the way to he had to actually move back to BC and started building more manufacturing in China. So their business was like over 100 people like staffs, right? And now they're spinning off a different project. They started raising capital there for this specific electric boat business idea, right? So I remember having a conversation before I invested in this company, like especially with my buddy's dad. He actually told me, he's like, everybody's resources is very limited, right? He said even in real estate, if you have 50, 100, 150K, say that amount of capital is still not big enough. So you got to figure out a way to draw more resource into your operation. So the idea that he gave me was that if you have that kind of capital that you can kind of start it off with, right? Figure out how to raise maybe $2 million, find a profitable or proven product or investment opportunity, raise that $2 million by spending, like basically use that 100, 150K that you have as your business capital to draw more income, because that $2 million at 15% is going to give you 300K. Right, and if you're doing better, then it's 400K, 500K. It's still going to be way better than you just us just investing that 150K into a property where you might get, let's say, additional like 100K to be extremely I guess profitable in that specific property, right? So the idea is always I try to invest that into the business, and that's also what we're doing. The whole property hustle thing wasn't because we just wanted to like do this for fun or do whatever. It's because we're using our capital towards our business operation. We're projecting what type of influence, what type of audience and attention that we can get a year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, and how much more capital that we need to put in, right? So that's kind of like my mindset in the past few years, and I always find that the return on the business is always going to be higher than properties, but there has to be a balance because sometimes when the capital is being reinvested into the business and the business is growing, this is still all numbers, right? The moment that market shifted to different direction, the business will crash. Then you're like, oh, we were making money, but everything's all paper. It shows very well on balance sheet. But then now I'm left with no properties, no assets at all.
Yeah.
Right after you go out of business. So my dad is the person who's pulling back that concept for me the whole time. It's just like, listen, if you make some money, put something into a property. It's okay, right? At least it's safe. It's security. It's sort of like insurance for your long-term growth. But my mindset has always been like, I want to put as much into the business, and then when I really feel like, okay, there's enough capital or whatever, I'll park some money somewhere. That's kind of like my current mindset. This will also change, I think, probably like 5 years, 10 years from now, because I got other consultant that was telling me that making money is one thing, right? Keeping money is 10 times harder.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can
even kind of like as you're saying, like as you scale the business, like I found like as we scaled in the Reno company, and I'm making more money, but I need more dudes, and I need to buy more material, and I need to like float more jobs, and then like, okay, now I'm making more money, but like, okay, but we're still growing, so like until you stop growing and stabilize, you're using that money to make more money.
Yeah. We're cash poor, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, it's there on paper. On paper, I have a lot of money, right? But in my hand, two different games. Until you scale and you grow, right? Like now we have like a lot of inventory of products and stuff like that. Like that took a while to like build up and get to that size and scale. Like I have probably at least 10 units worth of product on in-house at all times.
Yeah, that's like easily over 1 mil in the inventory, right? That's crazy.
Yeah. So we have that, like, but I need it. We're pumping out that much volume. Like today, I got a call from a guy, and he's like, "Hey, Mark, you said you could get me some tubs." I'm like, "Yeah, of course." I said I have. He's like, "Okay, I need 7." So he ordered 7. He's picking it up tomorrow morning, right? Mm-hmm. If I didn't have my 10 as my minimum, 10 for me is 0, right? Like 10 for me is 0. So if I don't have that, then like that, I couldn't fulfill that order, right? I couldn't get that deal. I couldn't, right? And I want to deal with these guys in these larger amounts, and if they're doing these higher volumes, I need to carry more stuff. Which is again, right? Like I gotta keep pushing that money forward so it starts to roll down. Like I always explain it as a snowball. You need to start pushing the snowball down the mountain at the very beginning, especially in business. You got to push it down, and always push it down. Don't be greedy in taking it, because when you take it, you could really affect the business. But at a certain point, that snowball is going to roll down by itself. You're not going to need to push it anymore, right? Like when it's like this, you need to push it. But when it's bigger than you don't need to push it. That thing is just like going out of control, which is kind of what's happening with my Reno company, talk about investing, and my supply thing, because it's so vertically integrated and they're all tied, and it's just all moving in the same direction together. Now this thing is really like, before, I would go have to chase business. Now, business is chasing me. People are constantly asking me for more stuff, and I'm like, I can't scale fast enough to support all of the work, and like now I have to like pick and choose who my clients are, which is a good problem to have. But it's because I let this snowball grow to a massive size that now I'm almost getting to the point. Now, if I take a big chunk of that snowball, it won't matter because it's going to be less than 1% of the snowball, and it's not going to affect the business. Nobody's going to miss it, but then I can start pushing another snowball down the hill. And that's what I did with the contracting company, and then we started, doing the materials, and now we're doing like the kitchen wholesaling supply. We're going to probably start a transportation company, expand the kitchen company, and like my goal is to go Canada wide. Like if my business doesn't go Canada wide in the next like 5 years, I don't know, I would feel like I didn't hit my target. But that's me. I'm always that crazy guy. I am like, jump,
Visionary.
jump, and
Yeah.
worry about the landing and when you get there, right? But the
Yeah.
snowball thing when it comes to business, I use that a lot. It's because people get
Yeah.
too
Yeah. The
greedy at the
momentum,
beginning.
right?
It takes time, man. And once, even like real estate investing, people like want the money, man. You got to invest, learn. You got to get it going, and once you get it to a size, then you can start stealing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this? Would you?
Well, honestly, momentum is the hardest thing to initiate in business, right? Like once you really push it through, then you grow quicker and quicker. And as long as it's like a 1% growth, that 1% growth will compound, right? Imagine if like 0% or is negative 1%, which is the management debt, is what we call it. It compounds and it really will chewing all the margin of your of the business. Happened to me twice, right? Overscaling the business and then got money in and out like too
Too fast.
quickly.
Yeah.
Nothing gets left in the account. It almost killed us twice.
Oh yeah. No, I can imagine, man.
So
I've been there. Trust me. I've definitely been there. But even like followers, like now I have before. Oh, we're frozen. Are you frozen? Let's see what happened here. Is it just me? Am I the only one frozen? Let's see.